Hi, this is Jill Coleman with JillStamps.com, and in this video I'd like to teach you how this card was created using a fun technique with the Stampin Chalk Marker. You can either call it Chalk Marker Stampin' or Colored Chalk Marker, and I'll show you how that's done. And I'll apologize now for my voice. I am fighting a cold. So with this card, you're going to use a dark cardstock, and I chose our basic black. You're going to heat emboss your image, and so I'm going to first cover my cardstock with our embossing buddy powder to take away the static, and that helps the extra embossing powder from sticking to places you don't want it to stick. So that's coated there. I'll then ink up my flower image with our Whisper White craft cardstock, craft ink, and stamp. And then I'll coat that with our white embossing powder. And I always give my embossing projects a good thunk on the back to get rid of the extra embossing powder. And then if you have any stray particles, which is pretty minimal when you use that embossing buddy, you can just flick those off. And then let's heat that. All right, and now you're ready to go. You've got your heat embossed image. It's the outlines are nice and raised, and you're ready to start coloring with our Stampin' Chalk Marker. Just take that chalk marker and color in within your images. And there's just that enough difference between the raised white edges and the more flat, muted filler ink that comes from the chalk marker that it gives a really neat effect. You can kind of color over the top of the raised image, and if wipe that off a little bit when you're done, that's fine. And so that is just how you color in with that chalk marker. And I have one flower that's already been completely done. And that in and of itself gives a pretty great effect. There's just enough, you can see enough of the raised detail, so you can see the detail of the flower. That white, and just that white on white is very beautiful. And I will give you a hint, if I had tried doing this technique, I thought, well, maybe to prevent more of the white embossing powder flecks being on my black cardstock, maybe I'll use white ink and then our clear embossing powder. And I don't know if you can see that real great in this camera shot, but just the edges of that embossed image are just not bold enough to carry this technique. Your white chalk marker on the inside of the lines just really fades away, and it just doesn't produce the same look. So just to save you a step, really you need to use the white ink with the white embossing powder. So once you have that, you could either leave that technique, and that's actually the original way I had done this project, was just the white on white, which is actually a technique you'll see in the new 2014-2015 Stampin' Up! Catalog. But I have thought about taking it a step further, and one of my club members suggested it too, which prompted me to go ahead and sit down and do it. And that was, now take your Stampin' Right markers and color on top of that chalk, which allows you to have color on a black cardstock. And what I found to work best for this is, with these flowers, I colored with my lighter marker first and just coated the whole inside of the flower. And one thing I did forget to mention is, do make sure after you've colored in your image with a chalk marker, give it a couple minutes just to set and dry and let that chalk marker saturate into the paper. And that way your ink will, the colored ink will set up nicely on top of that chalk marker. So I've got the lighter coat on there. Now I'm going to come in with my darker marker and highlight the centers, or the middles of the flower where they might be a little more concentrated with their color. And then if you wanted to add some greenery to the stem, you can do that too, because I had colored the stem. And just by filling in that flower, the inside flower with that chalk marker and that white, you now have a palette to then apply color to on that black cardstock. And it really is a beautiful look, and it gives a great pop to your project. So you can see how that color just sits right up on top of there. And then Once you complete it, you've got just a great project. So that's a real simple technique, colored chalk marker coloring or colored chalk marker. Try that on your next project with our basic black cardstock or another dark cardstock of your choice. Thanks for being here today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to check out more of my work, I'm over on my blog at jillstamps.com, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.